Hello, and welcome to another exciting not really an episode, but another story from the World Princess Week story time. I'm your lovely host, Mrs. Disney, and today we are going to be reading about Princess Jasmine from Aladdin and how she shows courage and kindness. Jasmine is the princess of Agrabah. She is incredibly independent and strong. She isn't afraid to speak her mind no matter who she's up against. And she'll never hesitate to stand up for what's right, especially for someone else's sake. She is extremely compassionate and caring toward her kingdom, her family, and her friends. And in our story today is the Princess Polo Games, written by Kitty Richards and illustrated by Nabi H. Ali. Now remember, I will be asking you a question towards the end of our story, and if you want to leave your answer, please put it on the comment below. One morning during breakfast, Jasmine received a letter from the Princess Polo Club. "It's finally here!" Jasmine exclaimed. Jasmine's father, the Sultan, looked on excitedly while Raja, her loyal tiger, nosed the tree hiding the letter. Aladdin and his monkey Abu craned their necks expectantly. Even the genie fell silent as he waited for Jasmine to share her news. She tore open the envelope and read, "Dear Princess Jasmine, congratulations. You have been selected to be a Princess Polo Club team captain. Please report to Guamar Field tomorrow morning to meet your team, the Royal Raiders. Thank you, the Princess Polo Club." Jasmine explained that the Princess Polo Games only happen once a year. Princesses from kingdoms far and wide came to compete. This year, the games were being held in Agrabah, and Jasmine wanted nothing more than to win the Princess Polo Club's golden trophy, just as her mother had many years earlier. "How exciting," Aladdin said. Abu chattered in agreement. The genie nodded. "I can't wait to cheer you on." With a poof of blue sparks, he transformed into a cheerleader complete with a megaphone and pom-poms. "Go, Jasmine!" The Sultan beamed in delight. "I wish your mother were here to see you following in her footsteps," he told his daughter. "Me too," Jasmine replied. Polo was a game Jasmine had loved since she was a young girl. She loved playing in the open air, feeling the strength of her horse as it galloped down the field, and that magical feeling of connection with her teammates. But most of all, she loved that polo was something that connected her to her mother, who had loved the sport and had given Jasmine her first mallet. Excusing herself from the breakfast table, Jasmine held tightly to the letter and made her way to a corridor she loved to visit. The soft patter on her feet was the only sound in the grand marble hallway. Jasmine came to a stop in front of a giant tapestry on the wall. On it was a woven image of her mother's polo team. The four teammates gleefully celebrated as they stood on the winning pedestal. Jasmine's mother stood front and center, proudly holding a golden trophy. "I will do my best to win the trophy, Mama," Jasmine whispered. "I'll win it for you." The next morning, warm sunlight burst over the kingdom of Agrabah. Jasmine quickly readied herself for the day ahead, stopping to see if the magic carpet would fly with her to the field. With a swirl in the air and a shake of its tassels, the carpet was ready. "Bye, Father. See you soon, everybody," Jasmine called as she jumped on the carpet. "Wish me luck." The duo flew off the balcony and away from the palace grounds over to Gamar Field. Jasmine's stomach fluttered like a flock of doves. She stepped onto the field and stood next to three other young women. They all introduced themselves. Then an older woman approached, her stride graceful and strong, and stood before them. Jasmine thought the woman looked familiar, but she couldn't quite place her face. "Welcome, captains," the woman said. I am the chairwoman of the Princess Polo Club. In a moment, I will introduce you to your teams. It is up to you to train them well. At the end of our season, a final match will determine who wins the golden trophy. That will be me, one young woman replied confidently. I'm Princess Farah. I always win no matter what. Well, you've met your match, Farah, thought Jasmine. The chairwoman announced each team. First, they were the Majestic Monarchs. 3 princesses in matching magenta outfits came riding out, sitting tall in their saddles. The Super Sultanas came out next. They were equally impressive, dressed in green, as were the awesome aces, who wore orange uniforms and had a fierce look in their eyes. Jasmine's heart thrummed with excitement. Her team was next. She couldn't wait to meet the women she would lead to victory. And last but not least, the chairwoman announced, Princesses Kamali, Amira, and Zaina, the Royal Raiders. Jasmine beamed, but then her smile faltered as her teammates appeared. Princess Farah sniffed, more like the Royal Freighters. The 3 princesses on Jasmine's team didn't so much ride onto the field as wander out as if they had no clue where they were going. Princess Kamali was holding onto her horse's neck for dear life, clearly terrified she would fall off. Princess Amira had her nose buried in a book, paying no attention as her horse steered itself toward a particularly succulent patch of grass and started munching. And Princess Zaina had hopped off her horse and was doing handstands and cartwheels across the field. As Farah snickered, Jasmine squared her shoulders. She wasn't ready to give up on her teammates. She would do whatever it took to get the competition ready. The team dispersed across the field to begin practice, and Jasmine handed out mallets to her teammates, but Kamali would barely let go of her horse's neck long enough to grab her mallet. Amira tucked hers under her elbow as she eagerly turned a page in her book. Meanwhile, Zaina twirled her mallet around like a baton. Jasmine bit her lip and decided the best way to coach her team into shape would to give them some tough love. She cleared her throat and barked out orders. Kamali, sit up straight. There's nothing to be afraid of. She turned toward the other teammates. Put away the book, Amira. Do you think you're in the library? And Zaina, get back on your saddle now. The princesses stared at her. Then Zaina burst into tears mid-handstand. Before Jasmine had a chance to change her approach, the horse Amir was absent-mindedly riding bumped into Kamali's horse, spooking it. The horse reared up. If Kamali was scared before, she was even more so now. The horse took off running with Kamali clinging to its mane. They headed straight for Zaina, who was still in the middle of a handstand. Zaina jumped out of the way just in time, her tears momentarily forgotten. Jasmine couldn't believe her eyes. Nothing was going as planned. Her team didn't even know how to hold their mallets. Worse, they didn't seem to have any interest whatsoever in winning the competition. Jasmine's hopes for the golden trophy were fading. Practice is over, Jasmine said with a sigh. Come back tomorrow, ready to play. With her spirits low, Jasmine went to speak with the chairwoman, who was sitting in the bleachers. There has to be some mistake, Jasmine pleaded. My teammates have no idea what they're doing. The chairwoman shook her head and smiled warmly. Teams were chosen specifically for each captain's strengths. You can do this, Princess Jasmine. When Jasmine returned home, the genie tried to cheer her up. He stretched his bright blue face into the shape of a horse's. Why the long face? He asked. But Jasmine didn't even smile. How did your first practice go? Asked Aladdin that night. Not very well, she said. I'm never going to win that trophy. Just do your best, said Aladdin. Jasmine hoped her best would be good enough. The next day, Jasmine came to the field armed with patience. She invited her teammates to tie up their horses and sit next to her in the grass. I think we need to start fresh, she said. Polo is a game, and games are fun. Let's begin by learning the basics, like how to sit on a horse, how to hold a mallet, and how to hit a ball. Does that sound like a good plan?" The princesses looked at each other and then nodded at Jasmine. "Great," Jasmine said, smiling brightly. "Let's get started." Step by step, she taught her team how to play polo. She showed them how to hit the ball into the goal and how to stop the opposing team from bumping their horses or hooking their mallets. Soon, Kamali, Amira, and Zaina were starting to get the hang of the game. There were still some mishaps, like when Zaina tried to leap from her horse onto Kamali's, or when Amira's horse started eating pages of her book. But this time, the team dissolved into giggles instead of tears. With each practice, Jasmine's team got better at playing polo, and Jasmine became an even better team captain. She had initially thought that being a team captain meant telling her teammates what to do, but she had learned that it worked better to be supportive and find ways to boost each other's confidence. As the tournament grew closer, Jasmine knew her team was ready to try a new type of practice. "Today we'll play a different game," Jasmine told the princesses. She set up a zigzag pattern of balls around the field. "Let's see who can hit the most balls." Kamali, Amira, and Zaina raced down the field. Jasmine saw that Kamali was so determined to stay on her horse that she would bump into the other players to stop them from bumping into her. Amira turned out to be an amazing hitter, as long as she pretended she was a hero from one of her books. And once Zaina realized her horse was as energetic as she was, they made a great team. They always got to the ball first. "Hey, look at me," Kamali called out. "I'm playing polo." "Me too," cried Amira. "Me three," shouted Zaina. Jasmine couldn't help smiling. Her team might not have the most talent, but they were learning the rules. And best of all, they were having fun doing it. At last the tournament arrived, and the real playing began. Some matches they won, and some they lost, but each game, Jasmine encouraged her teammates to use their strengths to do their best. Soon they won enough games to earn a place in the finals against the majestic monarchs. "Great job, team," Jasmine said, as the princesses steered their horses to the stable, proudly caressing their manes. "Let's head home for some rest. Tomorrow is the big game." As everyone headed off the field, Jasmine fell into step behind her team, and some players from the majestic monarchs who had finished their game at the same time as the royal raiders. "Today's games were fun, but I sure am exhausted," said Amira, yawning. "At least you can enjoy your win," said a monarch's player. "Farah is so mean. She's always yelling at us to ride faster and play harder. Nothing we do is ever good enough." Another monarch player joined in. "Maybe Farah needs to borrow your book, Amira," she said, nodding at the book's title, "How to Win as a Team." "Our team captain doesn't know the definition of team. I just want to get tomorrow's game over with." Jasmine listened, her eyes wide. She wished she could do something to make sure everyone enjoyed playing polo. That night before bed, Jasmine gazed at her mother's polo tapestry for good luck. She hoped she'd made her family proud at tomorrow's match. But more than that, she wanted to make her team proud. The next day, the city of Agrabah seemed to buzz with excitement. When Jasmine arrived at the field, she saw that the stands were filled with family and friends. Jasmine could see her own family huddled together and already cheering. The Sultan was sitting atop Raja to get a better view, clapping as each horse and player strode onto the field. The genie had multiplied himself into a fully marching band, complete with outfits and instruments, and Aladdin and Abu were cheering so loudly that Jasmine could hear them from across the field. But as Jasmine was rounding up her team for a quick pep talk, Princess Farah crossed their path on her horse. Well, if it isn't the scaredy cat, the bookworm, and the jumping bean, said Farah. Get ready to lose, she shouted as her horse galloped down the field. Jasmine's cheeks grew warm with anger, but she shrugged off the feeling to focus on her team. They huddled together moments before the first chukker, or game period. Farah doesn't know that the very things she teases you are the things that make you special, Jasmine said. I never realized how much I love riding, Kamali said, giving her horse a fond scratch between the ears. I can't wait to block Farah from scoring. Amira grinned, and I love imagining I'm an Egyptian charioteer. While I play, maybe I'll score my first goal today. And there's nothing I love more than zooming across the field, said Zaina, her eyes sparkling. Oh, I hope we win the tournament. Jasmine smiled. Me too. Now let's get out there and have fun. The game began. Zaina beat Farah to the ball right away, earning the Royal Raiders the first possession. In the second chukker, Kamali stopped Farah from scoring not once, not twice, but 3 times. Amira scored 2 goals all by herself in the third chukker. One of them was from all the way across the field. Then the ball headed right for Farah and Jasmine. They raced after it. Jasmine rode alongside Farah and expertly bumped her out of the way. Jasmine headed for the goal, ready to score. But then she saw Zaina. Jasmine hit the ball to her. Zaina's face lit up, and she aimed, shot, and connected with a resetting thwack. Jasmine watched in delight as the ball bounced toward the goal, but Farah intercepted it. The Majestic's Monarchs were in perfect position to make a goal. Farah's teammates called out for her to pass the ball, but she ignored them, raced down the field, and scored a goal on her own. Farah held her mallet up in the air victoriously. That's how you do it, she shouted to her teammates. Ball hog, one of the Monarchs muttered. After the fourth chukker, the captains rallied their teams. Great job, Royal Raiders, exclaimed Jasmine. The score is tied, said Amira. We could actually win this. The other Royal Raiders squealed with excitement, but when Jasmine peeked over her team's huddle at the Majestic Monarchs, she could see their shoulders droop as Farah gestured wildly at the goal. Jasmine had noticed that Farah never passed the ball to her teammates, and she felt sad for them. That gave her an idea. She turned her attention back to the team. Team, I'm so proud of you, Jasmine said. Amira, you made not only your first goal, but a second too. Zaina, you raced to the ball from the get-go and got us the first possession. And Kamali, I've never seen anyone block the other team from scoring so many times. She paused and took a deep breath. But I'm not sure the other team is having as much fun as we are. Jasmine huddled her team close and told them her idea. She wanted to give the other team a chance to play and have fun. The other women agreed at once. When the Royal Raiders returned to the field for the final chukker, Jasmine got the first possession. She could have raced down the field to score the winning goal, but she passed the ball. Not to her team, but straight to one of the Monarch players. Kamali and Amira, in on the plan, blocked Farah from intercepting the pass, and Zaina cheered the Monarchs all the way down the field. In the last chukker, each Monarch's player scored a goal. When the final bell rang, the Monarchs had won. Even though she'd lost the tournament, Jasmine's heart was full. It was a tough game, but most important, it was fun. She was pleased that everyone on both teams had gotten a chance to play and let their talents shine. That was more important than winning. At the awards ceremony, Farah and her team stepped up to the podium. Congratulations, said the chairman. The medals go to the winners, the majestic monarchs." She stepped forward and hung medals around each of their necks. Jasmine and her team cheered along with the rest of the crowd. Farah grinned as she looked down at her medal, but her smile faded when the chairwoman held tight to the golden trophy. Just as Jasmine and her team were preparing to head off the field, the chairwoman spoke again. "There is one more award to be given out today," she said, holding up the trophy. "This year, the golden trophy goes to Princess Jasmine." I don't understand," Jasmine stammered. "It is Princess Polo Club tradition to bestow the golden trophy on the most honorable player, not the winning team," explained the chairwoman. "Jasmine, you had shown strength, bravery, and most of all, kindness to your teammates and opponents. You are a true leader, just like your mother." Jasmine gasped. "You knew my mother?" The chairwoman nodded. "She was my team captain." No wonder she looked familiar. She was one of the women from her mother's tapestry. Jasmine's heart soared, and the crowd roared with applause. Her family hurried out of the stands to congratulate her. "You were amazing out there," said Aladdin, smiling proudly. Raja rubbed against her legs, and Abu wrapped his arms around the gleaming trophy. The genie turned himself into a rocket and blasted off, bursting overhead into a colorful fireworks display. "Like mother, like daughter," the chairwoman said to Jasmine's father. "I told you so," he said, embracing his daughter, "and I've never been prouder." Wow, what an amazing story of Jasmine. And it definitely showed that Jasmine is spirited, compassionate, generous, self-assured, open-minded, and inclusive. And her dream is to explore a whole new world. Her heroic moment fighting Jafar to save her family, along with her pet tiger and best friend, Raja. Her famous quote, "I can't stay here and live and have my life lived for me." So here's my question for you. What is your proudest win?